Fired after 19 years, I thought I had nothing left. But the truth I uncovered could destroy them all. What happens when you fight for what's right? I had worked at Northmere Dynamics for 19 years. 19 years. A long time, long enough to build a stable career, long enough to think I would retire comfortably after all the ups and downs the company had seen. But today, all I got was a cold notice from Rebecca Martin, the CEO, about the company restructuring and my departure. The conference room felt colder than I had ever remembered. The silence in the room was suffocating, as if every sound had been sucked out into the void. Rebecca didn't even look up from her tablet as she calmly delivered the message I knew was coming. Her tone was rehearsed, like she had said it 1,000 times before. Your position is being eliminated due to restructuring. I didn't say a word. Didn't argue. Didn't plead. I just stared at her, forcing myself to keep my face neutral. But inside, I felt like a ship sinking into the depths of the ocean, unable to escape. 19 years of loyalty, and this was how they sent me off. A sterile conference room and no more than a cardboard box. Damon, the vice president, slid the box across the table with a look that seemed to suggest he had done this before. We'll need your keycard and parking pass, he added. Security will escort you to collect your personal items. I nodded, a tight motion that felt unnatural, but I didn't argue. I wasn't surprised. The company had been changing for years, and I had felt it coming. As I stood up and grabbed the box, my mind was numb. I didn't even think to protest. It was pointless. No words, no grand speeches, just the cold reality of a system that chews people up and spits them out when they're no longer useful. Walking through the office, I could feel the eyes on me. No one said anything. No one looked me in the eye. It was as if I had become invisible, or worse, something to avoid. I had been part of the company for nearly 2 decades, and now, I was just another casualty of their relentless pursuit of change. When I reached my car, I allowed myself a small, tight smile. They thought I was leaving with nothing. What they didn't know was that I was leaving with everything they didn't want found. Inside my leather portfolio, tucked away securely, was everything, 3 years' worth of meticulously documented evidence of their financial misdeeds. They might have taken my job, but they didn't know I was the one who had been keeping track all along. I had always been diligent, yes, but I was never suspicious by nature. For the first 15 years, Northmere had been a place I was proud to work for. Under Harold Northmere, the founder, we worked hard, but we were treated with respect. Numbers don't lie, David, he used to say. People do. Your job is to make sure the numbers always tell the truth. After Harold retired, things changed slowly, too slowly for anyone to really notice at first. Then came the new leadership. Rebecca from a multinational company, Damon a smooth-talking strategist. They promised growth, but the price was too high. I noticed the small discrepancies, the slight corners being cut, the changes that no one talked about. But I let it go, until I couldn't anymore. And now, here I was, driving away, with the unsettling feeling that the real battle was just beginning. I parked my car in the driveway, feeling like a stranger to my own home. It wasn't much, just a modest house, the kind you buy when you work hard and save every penny. But tonight, it felt empty, like a shell I was now living in. My wife had passed away years ago, and since then, I had thrown myself into work to fill the silence. It seemed like a lifetime ago now. I walked inside, setting the cardboard box on the kitchen counter. The weight of it felt heavier than it should. The things inside, some personal effects, a few family photos, seemed so insignificant compared to the files I had in my leather portfolio, the ones that truly mattered. It was almost midnight when I finally sat down at my desk. I knew I had to go through everything, even if I didn't know what I was looking for. The company had always run smoothly, or at least it used to. But something had changed after the new management came in. The whispers, the subtle signs, everything pointed to a slow erosion of integrity. I had watched it happen, too careful to speak out too soon, but too aware to ignore it. As I sifted through the files, the routine of it all felt oddly comforting. The numbers, the reports, they never lied. Not like people did. But then, my eye caught something unusual, something I hadn't seen before. A stack of invoices for services rendered by companies I'd never heard of. The amounts were astronomical, and what struck me the most was that none of these companies had any history of doing business with Northmere. I pulled the invoices closer, running my fingers over the numbers, double-checking the dates. The payments were recent, large enough to raise questions. These weren't minor discrepancies, these were massive payments to companies with no track record. Something about it didn't sit right. I felt a flicker of unease, but I pushed it down, focusing instead on the next sheet. More names. More companies. More money flowing out of the company's accounts. Each one raised another question. How had I missed this before? These companies weren't just unverified, they were ghost companies, with no public records, no contact information beyond a P.O. box address, and no discernible link to anything we had ever done. I leaned back in my chair, rubbing my temples. I could feel the weight of this new discovery pressing down on me. This wasn't just about the money. No, this felt bigger. Something was hiding in plain sight, and I had stumbled across it without even meaning to. For a long moment, I sat there, the dim glow of the desk lamp casting long shadows on the walls. I felt like I had just uncovered the tip of an iceberg, and I had no idea how deep it went. This wasn't just about corporate mismanagement anymore. This was a secret. A secret that could unravel everything Northmere had ever been. I had to know more. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized that the people responsible would do anything to keep it hidden. Anything. The phone rang late the next night. The screen lit up with a number I didn't recognize. For a moment, I hesitated before answering. I already knew what this was. My heart beat faster as I pressed the phone to my ear. David, the voice on the other end was cold, unfamiliar. You need to let this go. I didn't need to ask who it was. The warning was clear enough. The voice continued, lower now, more insistent. If you don't, things are going to get much harder for you. We can make sure you're not so comfortable anymore. I swallowed hard, my mind racing. The words hung in the air, like a storm cloud that I couldn't shake off. I had been expecting this, of course. The moment I started digging into the company's finances, I knew I would attract attention. But I didn't expect it to happen so soon, or so aggressively. I stayed silent for a moment, trying to steady my breath. I knew I needed to be careful, to stay calm, but the tension was building inside me. Who is this? I asked, my voice tight. The caller hung up without answering, leaving me alone with my thoughts and the weight of the threats I'd just received. It didn't take a genius to figure out what they were getting at. They wanted me to back off. And it was clear they were willing to do whatever it took to make that happen. The next morning, another surprise came. A thick envelope arrived at my door, addressed to me in neat handwriting. I opened it carefully, finding a legal document inside, an updated severance package. The terms were significantly more generous than the first offer. It even included a few perks I hadn't seen coming. I read through it once, then twice, each time trying to convince myself that it was just a coincidence. But I knew better. This was Rebecca Martin's doing. The offer was her way of trying to shut me up, to buy my silence. I tossed the paper onto the table, feeling my blood pressure rise. The message was clear: sign this, and we'll let you walk away with your dignity and your money. But it wasn't just about the money anymore. I wasn't the same man who had walked into that conference room the other day. Something inside me had shifted. Rebecca didn't think I would fight back. She thought I would take the money and go quietly. But she was wrong. The stakes had changed, and I wasn't going to be intimidated so easily. I knew what I had to do now. The question was whether I was ready to risk everything to expose the truth. I sat at my desk, staring at the computer screen for what felt like hours. The decision that had been lingering in my mind now weighed heavily on my chest. The envelope from Rebecca still lay open beside me, the generous severance offer mocking me. It would have been so easy to sign it and walk away. But I wasn't the same man I had been just days ago. They thought they could buy me off, but the truth was, I couldn't let it go. Not after everything I had uncovered. With a steadying breath, I began to type. The email to the authorities was straightforward, a summary of everything I had discovered, along with the evidence I had meticulously gathered over the months. The financial irregularities, the ghost companies, the manipulated records, everything. I knew this wasn't going to be easy. The risks were enormous. But if I was going to do this, I had to do it right. The truth couldn't stay buried. I hesitated for a moment before hitting send. Once I did, there would be no going back. There would be no more turning a blind eye, no more pretending that everything was fine. It would be out there, for everyone to see. And once the authorities got involved, there would be no escaping it. The weight of the moment hit me as I sat back, the silence in the room almost suffocating. I could already feel the pressure building. Rebecca, Damon, the entire company would come after me. But I had made my choice. I wasn't going to be their pawn anymore. The truth needed to come to light, and I wasn't afraid to fight for it. But then, just as I was about to focus on what came next, my phone buzzed on the desk. It was a message from Ellie. "Dad, I've been trying to reach you. Please call me." I felt a tight knot form in my stomach. Ellie had been worried ever since I got the axe. I knew she could sense something was wrong, but I had kept her at arm's length, not wanting to burden her with this mess. She had enough on her plate with her law career. I dialed her number, and the line rang for a few seconds before she picked up. "Dad?" Ellie's voice was filled with concern. "What's going on? I know something's been off lately. You're not telling me everything." I sighed, rubbing my eyes. "Ellie, it's complicated. Dad, you don't have to protect me. I can handle it," she interrupted, her voice rising. "Please, tell me the truth. What's happening?" I paused, unsure of how much to tell her. But the decision had already been made. She needed to know, even if it meant putting her in harm's way. "I'm going after them, Ellie," I said, my voice steady but filled with the weight of the reality I was facing. "I've got the evidence. I'm sending it to the authorities." There was silence on the other end of the line before she spoke again, her voice trembling. "Dad, no. You can't do this. You're going to make them come after you. Please, think about what's at stake." "I've thought about it," I said quietly, trying to calm her. "This isn't just about me anymore. This is bigger than the company. It's about doing what's right." Ellie didn't respond immediately. The silence stretched between us, thick with tension. Finally, she spoke, her voice low. "I just don't want to lose you, Dad." "I'm not going anywhere, Ellie," I reassured her, though my words felt empty even to me. "But I have to do this." As I hung up, I couldn't shake the feeling that the path I was on was leading me into dangerous territory. But it was too late to turn back now. The next few days felt like I was walking through a minefield. Each step, each decision, weighed on me like 1,000 pounds. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, followed. Even when I went to the grocery store, I couldn't shake the unsettling sense that someone was lurking just outside my line of sight. It wasn't paranoia. I knew something was happening, something much bigger than I had realized. It wasn't just the company anymore. As I dug deeper, I started to notice something disturbing. The government agencies were involved too. The discrepancies I had found in the financial records, those ghost companies, the phantom transactions, were all being covered up by more than just Northmere Dynamics. The paperwork was being altered, backdated approvals were slipping under the radar, and records that should have been publicly accessible had been manipulated to hide the truth. I began to fear that the conspiracy I had uncovered wasn't just about corporate greed anymore. It was far more insidious. The involvement of government officials, the manipulation of records tied to public contracts, this wasn't just financial fraud. It was something much darker. And that's when I realized I was in over my head. The phone call came the next evening, just as I was getting ready for bed. I had been working late again, going over the emails I had sent to the authorities. Nothing had come back yet, and I couldn't tell if that was a good or bad sign. The phone rang, and when I saw the number, my blood ran cold. It was Rebecca. Her voice, once calm and collected, now held a sharp edge. "David, we need to talk." I swallowed hard. "What's this about, Rebecca?" "You've been causing a lot of problems, David," she said, her tone darkening. "I gave you a way out. You could have walked away, quietly. But you've decided to make things difficult." I could hear the venom in her voice, and it sent a chill down my spine. "I'm not going to let you ruin everything we've worked for. You're going to regret this." I felt my pulse quicken. "What exactly are you threatening, Rebecca?" Her laugh was dry and cruel. "I'm not threatening you, David. I'm telling you how it is. I have people who can make sure your life becomes unbearable. You think you're untouchable because you have your little files, but you don't realize the game you're playing. It's bigger than you think. And we always win." Before I could respond, she hung up. My heart was pounding in my chest as I sat there, frozen, staring at the phone. For a moment, I just sat there in the dark, listening to the sound of my breath. This wasn't just a corporate issue anymore. They weren't going to let me expose them without a fight. And I had no idea how far they were willing to go. I didn't sleep that night. My mind raced with thoughts of what Rebecca had said. The idea that this was bigger than just Northmere. The government contracts, the falsified records, it was all part of a larger scheme. And now that I had stumbled onto it, I was a target. The next morning, I called Ellie. I needed to warn her, but part of me knew she was right to be worried. This had already spiraled beyond what I could handle alone. "Ellie, I need to tell you something," I said, my voice shaking slightly. I think I've uncovered something I shouldn't have. It's not just about Northmere anymore. There's more to this, and I'm in danger." She was quiet for a long time before she spoke, her voice laced with concern. "Dad, you need to stop. You're not thinking clearly. These people will do anything to protect themselves. You're putting yourself and me in danger." "I have to do this," I said, my voice firm despite the fear gnawing at me. "I can't turn back now." "I know," she whispered, the sadness in her voice clear. "But just promise me you'll be careful." Careful. I wasn't sure I even knew what that meant anymore. The decisions I made now could lead to consequences I couldn't predict. Every move I made seemed to bring me closer to the edge of something far worse than I could ever have imagined. It was late when I received the message from Linda Thompson. The name hadn't crossed my mind in years, but when the notification popped up on my phone, I felt a wave of anxiety ripple through me. Linda had worked in finance with me years ago, and like many others, she had disappeared without a trace after a restructuring some time back. She'd been one of the few people I trusted in that place, and when she vanished, I assumed it was just another casualty of the corporate machine. The message was brief but urgent: "We need to meet. It's bigger than you think. I know who's behind it all." I didn't waste any time. I called her back, my hands shaking as I dialed. When she picked up, her voice was low, almost a whisper. "You've uncovered part of the truth, David, but you don't know the whole story," she said, her tone filled with unease. "I know what you found, the financial irregularities, the phantom companies, but that's just the surface. There's something much darker underneath all of this." My stomach tightened as I listened intently, waiting for the next piece of the puzzle. "I'm in deep, David. Deeper than I ever thought I'd be. I know who's really behind this, she continued, pausing before dropping the bombshell. It's Ryan Mitchell. He's not just a corporate executive. He's part of a much larger operation, a financial syndicate with international reach. He's been working with them to drive Northmere into the ground so they can buy it up at a fraction of the price. I felt my breath catch. Ryan Mitchell. The man who had always been just a smooth-talking, ambitious exec. I'd never imagined he was capable of something like this. Northmere's collapse isn't an accident, David. It's all been planned. The layoffs, the budget cuts, the falsified contracts, they're orchestrating this. The pension funds they've been draining. That's just the beginning. They're looking to acquire Northmere's assets, and they're doing it with the help of people inside the company and outside, government contracts, military deals, the whole thing is connected. I leaned back in my chair, stunned. The world around me felt like it was spinning out of control. The story I thought I was uncovering, simple corporate corruption, was nothing compared to the conspiracy Linda was describing. Ryan Mitchell, the man who had been steering Northmere into dangerous waters, wasn't just motivated by greed. He was part of a much larger game. And it wasn't just about money, it was about power. About control. Linda continued, her voice shaking now. I've been gathering information, David. They know about me. They've been watching me. But I have proof, documents, emails, and records that tie it all together. It's not just the pension fund. It's the military contracts they've been falsifying. The government's been complicit in this from the start. And now, they're coming for you. I sat in stunned silence as the weight of her words sank in. This wasn't just a fight against corporate corruption anymore. This was a fight against a shadowy network of financiers and politicians who would stop at nothing to secure their hold on Northmere. I had been a pawn in a much larger game than I'd ever imagined. I need to meet you, I said, urgency in my voice. Where are you? She hesitated, her voice barely audible. They know about me now. I can't risk meeting you in person. But I'll send you everything I have. You need to act fast, David. They're preparing to move against you, don't wait too long. Before I could say anything else, she hung up. I sat there, the weight of her words pressing down on me. I had thought I was fighting against a corrupt board of directors. But now I knew the truth, this was about something much bigger, an international financial conspiracy that had been orchestrating Northmere's downfall from the inside out. The road ahead was no longer just about exposure. It was about survival. And now, I realized, the game wasn't just rigged, it was a battle for my life. The lakeside hotel was as elegant as it was quiet. I had chosen the meeting location carefully, neutral ground, where Rebecca couldn't control the environment. She still thought she could win me over with her silver tongue. She thought she could make me an offer I couldn't refuse. But this time, I wasn't going to play her game. When she walked into the hotel lobby, her usual polished demeanor was gone. Her eyes darted around nervously, as if she knew something was off. She was expecting me to be desperate, expecting me to sign the severance package and walk away from the mess. But I wasn't that man anymore. David, Rebecca said with a forced smile, though her voice lacked the warmth it once had. I'm glad we could finally meet in person. I didn't smile back. I didn't even offer her a handshake. Let's get to the point. I'm not here for your offers, Rebecca. I'm here to end this. Her expression faltered, and I could see the tension building in her. She had no idea how much had already been set in motion. Before she could respond, the door to the private meeting room burst open. Agents in dark suits flooded the room, quickly surrounding us. I barely registered their faces before one of them stepped forward, pulling out a badge. Rebecca Martin, the agent said, his voice firm, you're under arrest for financial fraud, conspiracy, and several counts of embezzlement. You have the right to remain silent. Rebecca froze, her eyes wide with disbelief as the agents moved in to restrain her. Her mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. She couldn't fathom that everything had unraveled so quickly, so completely. The game she thought she was playing, one of manipulation and power, was over. As the agents handcuffed her, I stepped forward, my heart pounding in my chest. I had done it. I had gathered the evidence, connected the dots, and exposed the corruption. All those months of collecting documents, following leads, and taking risks had led to this moment. I had helped bring down a criminal network that reached far beyond Northmere dynamics. As I stood there, watching Rebecca being led away, I felt a mixture of relief and exhaustion. The battle had taken everything from me, my career, my peace of mind, even my relationships. But it had been worth it. I wasn't just fighting for myself, I was fighting for the people who had been exploited, the employees who had been lied to, the workers who had seen their pensions stolen. I thought of Harold Northmere, the man who had built this company with integrity and hard work. He had always told me, numbers don't lie, David. People do. And now, I understood what that really meant. The truth had always been there, buried beneath layers of deceit. All I had to do was dig deep enough to find it. As I left the hotel, I knew I had made the right choice. The fight hadn't been about revenge or personal gain. It had been about justice, about ensuring that the truth came to light. And in the end, that was all that mattered. Numbers don't lie, David, I whispered to myself, remembering Harold's words. Only people do.